we're skipping that. So we're going straight on to potential directions. So essentially, this is the final development stage of your process. So here I have shown you 3 different potential directions, which is what you need to create. Here I have shown you, you do not have to do this, but you do have to do the annotation. I'm showing you by creating this drawing here, your potential direction must only be line work. It's only focusing on how you use scale, proportion, and space to develop your composition. We are not looking at techniques at this stage. That is the next step. We are not looking at color, tone, anything that involves or requires technique. All we are looking is to get the best final composition that you can use. This drawing needs to be good quality. It needs to be to the best of your ability, so no rough sketches. This is essentially a line work or an outline of your final composition, okay? So this needs to be your best work. We can see on the left here how the artist inspiration has been linked. So I'm utilizing the idea of the overproportionate subject matter to inject some humor. I've got my personal inspiration here, so I've included my experiences with Japanese and Korean food and culture. We can see in the soups here, and I've also included Melbourne City, so the idea of where I discovered those cultures. You can then see I've clearly used my collected subject matter to help me portray these things within my potential direction. Okay, at the top here, I've put my theme and my aesthetic quality, strength, and joy I wanted to portray. So the joy is shown through the character eating and really enjoying these other cultures' foods and that idea of discovery, but also strength is shown through the oversized surreal character itself. Okay, so when we are annotating this particular one, what we are looking at, we can see down here, you'll have access to this example, and there is a clear template on your annotation booklet. So I'm going to read this annotation so you understand what it is that you need to be saying when you annotate this. So, for potential direction 1, I've utilized Yu Min Jun's artwork, The Resurrection, as inspiration when developing my potential final artwork composition. For my subject matter, I have chosen to illustrate a surreal self-portrait of myself eating soup from a range of different cultures while standing over my home city of Melbourne, where I discovered and experienced these cultures while sharing stories and memories with my friends from multicultural backgrounds. The holding of the plane also represented my dream to travel and further explore these cultures, as well as their way of thinking and understanding of the world. This composition looks to explain the concept of using one's own city for exploration of the self and others, and the celebration of the idea that exploring culture helps us to better oneself. In my personal research, I explored and collected imagery of myself, my city, cultural dishes and planes, which were collected to symbolize my exploration of culture within my own city. By using form in conjunction with scale and proportion, I've encapsulated the aesthetic qualities of joy and humor to reveal my theme of culture. Moving forward with this idea, I would like to apply a wet on dry technique using oil pastel. I will be looking to develop a radiant color palette with a smooth textured tonal application. I also aim to construct an artwork that illustrates bold outline forms to develop emphasis on particular subject matter. From this combination of radiant colors, soft tones with bold outline forms, I feel as if I may be able to successfully develop a joyous aesthetic quality to represent my chosen themed culture. In my research, I explored the artworks of Yu Min Jun, who both encapsulated the aesthetic qualities of joy, using the art elements color, form and tone, and art principles scale, proportion and emphasis to develop their subject matter within their composition, and will look to further draw on them as inspiration when referring refining my composition. Throughout the process of developing my artwork with particular focus on form, scale, and proportion, I feel I've been able to achieve my proposed aesthetic qualities joy. In this trial composition, if I am to refine this idea, refining the forms to further balance my composition and emphasize my symbolism may help. But overall, I feel it has the potential to clearly communicate my theme culture as it stands for my final artwork through my utilization of this particular subject matter. So there, a really, really clear overall capture talking about how every single piece of my research so far has been injected into this composition. Similarly, I'm going to quickly show you the other two compositions that I've developed. So the second, potential direction. This one draws on Helen Katanaka using this subject matter and these personal inspirations. So the idea of me breaking down cultural barriers as a first-generation Australian. My last potential direction was that idea of utilising Melbourne City, my place of birth and upbringing, and the idea of these flowers reaching upward and outward using my own subject matter, and talking about how that idea of growth when discovering one's culture and new cultures helps you to develop into what I see as a better person and a more understanding person, and showing how I've utilized Reg Mombassa's style and his composition to help me bring that to life. Okay. So you need to develop, like I have, 3 potential directions that illustrate your final theme. The next thing you need to do, I have developed 2 technique potential directions for each of my potential directions. You have to, not like me, you have to pick your favorite potential direction, and then you will trial 2 different techniques. Those techniques must be inspired by your artist that you have in your research. Okay, so we can see here I've used Reg Mombassa as one of my influences, and I've used a wet on dry alla prima technique to get that smooth blending, and I've also utilized those bold black outlines that he uses. For my second one, I've looked at Kellen Hatanaka and how he uses a dry brush strokes. So he does a dry brush into paint onto a dry surface to get that rough and ready texture, which is very different and creates a more of a chaotic, messy feel. It still gives a childlike humor and quality to it. So that is the difference between the two. It is from those 2 that you will choose your final artwork. Okay, so that final artwork, I'm going to tell you guys later on how you create an artist description. So to fully describe what it is that you're trying to say in that artwork and how you've created that narrative using materials, techniques, and art elements and principles. And then lastly, we will be doing an evaluation that I will give you in the week 3 of term 4 to finish off this outcome 1. But I might just go back quickly just to show you how these last step trials for your chosen potential direction need to be annotated. So this one here, this is the artwork I've chosen. And this is shown in the template in your essay annotation booklet. So for trial 1, I have utilized Reg Mombassa's artwork, Landscape with Book Learning, as inspiration to understand how to develop my composition using the material of oil pastel, applying it through a wet on dry blending technique. I feel as I have been able to develop soft, smooth tones to develop surreal, 3-dimensional, humanized everyday forms. I have constructed an artwork that focuses on scale to bring small objects to the forefront. And furthermore, using bold, thick line work to outline and emphasize particular subject matter. From this combination of bold line work, soft tones and scale, I feel as if I have been successful in developing a joyful aesthetic quality. Through the soft, smooth, textured strokes of the oil pastel throughout the tonal areas, I've been able to bring a sense of calmness to each piece of subject matter which I'd hoped to achieve. Throughout the process of developing my artwork using wet on dry technique, I feel I've been able to achieve my proposed aesthetic quality joy in this trial composition. My use of deep tones and vivid colours in combination with smooth textures and bold lines illustrates the overwhelming sense of joy that one feels when discovering something new for the first time. It can make you feel on top of the world. Overall, I feel the technique of wet and dry using oil, pastel and paper has allowed me to clearly communicate my theme culture by capturing the joy within the character who is enjoying the meal from another culture, which has uncovered through a sense of discovery within their own community. Furthermore, it captures the spirit of never overlooking the place you live in as a resource of helping you to grow. So we can see there, by me getting to this final point, what I have done is utilize all of my research, all of my conceptual possibilities, all of my artist inspirations, parts of my subject matter, and artist's inspiration for materials and techniques to develop my final artwork. So hopefully you guys, from this lengthy video, you can see what your overall process must include and the links that you must be showing in order to get a high or very high for this particular outcome. So hopefully this helps. Use this as your reference for how you move through this process.